Ben Askren, the former Olympian and MMA star known for his gritty resilience and competitive spirit, recently revealed a deeply personal and vulnerable chapter of his life, one that fans never expected and one he himself never saw coming. For a man who built a career on withstanding punishing blows inside the cage, this time, the battle wasn't with another fighter, it was with his own body. In a candid video message filmed from a hospital bed, Ben offered an unfiltered look at the harsh medical ordeal he's been enduring over the past several weeks. He looked different than the fighter fans remember, worn down by the circumstances. Visibly more fragile, yet still holding on to a certain spark in his eyes. That spark, however dimmed for a moment, was not extinguished. It flickered with a stubbornness familiar to anyone who's watched him wrestle or fight. He admitted, quite honestly, that he had allowed the enormity of the situation to get to him. "I've felt sorry for myself," he said, pausing between breaths that now relied on a new pair of lungs to function. It was a rare moment of vulnerability for someone who made a name for himself by pushing through adversity with grit and wit. But there, lying in that hospital bed, he wasn't the funky Ben Askren the world knew. He was simply a man coming to terms with the fragility of life, wrestling not with an opponent, but with emotions and questions no amount of training had prepared him for. He shared something intimate, a journal entry written by a close family friend on Father's Day. The entry painted a picture of a man on the brink. Just a few short weeks ago, doctors were still trying to determine if a lung transplant was even a viable option. The prognosis was grim. Time wasn't on his side, and yet, here he was, with two brand new lungs inside his chest, a miracle in its own right. It's a journey that can only be described as dizzying. How could someone who never smoked a cigarette in his life, never touched marijuana, someone who maintained a clean lifestyle as an athlete, end up needing a life-saving surgery that most associate with decades of abuse or chronic illness? That question haunted him. It burrowed into his psyche, gnawed at his confidence, and cast a heavy shadow over his sense of identity. "Why me?" was a question that probably echoed endlessly through his mind. In his message, he confessed to those dark moments, the nights spent in frustration, the days clouded with uncertainty. He found himself slipping into a mental space he wasn't proud of, one where he questioned the fairness of his reality, where he momentarily surrendered to sadness. But that's not the space he's choosing to stay in anymore. Ben made it clear that the period of self-pity is over. He's not going to sit around and stew in misfortune. He's choosing a mindset shift, one where he recognizes that while the hand he was dealt isn't ideal, he still has cards to play, and that matters. That choice to move forward, to stand up metaphorically when he can't physically yet, is a quiet act of defiance against despair. He reflected on how this health battle brought him back to the basics, appreciating the very breath in his lungs, the touch of loved ones, the sunlight breaking through a hospital window. These are things that many take for granted until life forces a pause, until the machinery of existence falters, and the things that once seemed automatic become privileges. Ben is not taking any of it for granted anymore. What's particularly striking about his story is how it unfolded so rapidly. 1 month, he was a father being celebrated on Father's Day, albeit with looming medical uncertainty, and within weeks, he had undergone one of the most complex and risky surgeries a human body can endure, a double lung transplant. The idea of having both lungs replaced is terrifying to most. It's major surgery, with massive implications, and not every patient survives the procedure or the grueling recovery. That Ben is here, awake and talking, is nothing short of miraculous. But the miracles didn't come easy. Earlier this week, he opened up further, revealing that his heart had stopped beating for a full 20 seconds during his medical crisis. 20 seconds. In those few seconds, time stood still. Those around him watched in helpless horror. And Ben, he remembers none of it. There's a hole in his memory, a lost stretch of time where the fight for his life was at its most intense. And yet, somehow, he made it through. The man who once used his body as a weapon in the octagon now relies on medicine, machines, and meticulous care just to heal. The recovery process ahead is long. It's not glamorous, it's not filled with highlight reels or roaring fans, but it's real. It's about showing up each day, pushing through the pain, relearning how to live, and finding meaning again. What's more inspiring is how he's embraced that challenge. Rather than dwell on the what-ifs or whys, he's shifting his focus to gratitude. He's not angry anymore about having never smoked and still needing new lungs. He's not resentful about the timing, about the irony, or about the unfairness of it all. Instead, he's thankful. Thankful for modern medicine. Thankful for the donor family whose unthinkable loss gave him life. Thankful for the doctors who worked tirelessly to save him. Thankful for the support system, his wife, his children, his friends, his fans who have been his emotional anchors. Ben's story is now one of rebirth. He's not just healing, he's transforming. The physical scars will remain, yes, but so will the emotional strength forged in the crucible of this near-death experience. He's finding clarity in the chaos, purpose in the pain. And he's doing it publicly, not for attention, but for connection. Because maybe someone else out there is in a hospital bed feeling hopeless. Maybe someone else is wondering why life threw them a curveball they didn't deserve. And maybe, just maybe, hearing Ben Askren talk about his journey will give them the strength to hang on a little longer. He made a promise. Not just to himself, but to everyone who's followed his journey, that he will not pity himself anymore. He will face each day with intention, with fire, with a renewed appreciation for life. That's the kind of mental toughness that can't be faked, it's earned. And Ben's earned it in the most painful and powerful way possible. There's a lesson in his story that transcends sport, that applies to all of us, athlete or not, healthy or struggling. Life is unpredictable. One moment you're standing tall, and the next, you're lying in a hospital room tethered to tubes and machines, trying to understand what just happened. But what matters most is not how or why you fell. What matters is how you rise. Ben Askren is rising, slowly, painfully, but steadily, and through it all, his heart both literally and metaphorically keeps beating, and through it all, his heart both literally and metaphorically keeps beating. Every day is a new beginning now. Every breath is no longer just an involuntary motion, it's a conscious reminder of survival. It's a victory. It's a moment to be cherished. Each inhale is a symbol of persistence, and every exhale is a quiet testimony to a man who refuses to let his past define his future. This isn't about being an athlete anymore. This isn't about wins, losses, or statistics. This is about the human spirit and what it means to endure when all odds are against you. In the silence of the hospital room, with the beeping of machines and the soft shuffle of nurses' shoes as background music, Ben began to listen, not to others, but to himself. He listened to the stillness of the moment, to the new rhythm of his breath, to the slow recalibration of a body learning to trust its new parts. And in that silence, he found not fear, but peace. Recovery isn't glamorous. It's long, it's grueling, and it's filled with setbacks. Some days will feel like progress. Others will feel like regressions. There will be nights filled with pain and mornings filled with fatigue. But Ben has already decided that no matter how many times he has to start over, he will, because he understands something that most people don't learn until it's too late. Life isn't a straight line. It's a winding path of chaos, miracles, tragedy, and joy. It's about how many times you're willing to keep moving forward, even when every step hurts.